This is now recording. Great. Hi, everybody. Welcome to, I guess, maybe a bonus episode.
We don't know what this is, really.
But Jason's back, and he had a really fun story he wanted to tell.
So, and just by the origin, so people understand, Andrew has no idea of the story I'm about to tell.
Zero clue. You sent me a picture of a cult, what you thought was the Nexium cult.
Yeah.
Which, fascinated by. And Scott's not really super into cults, so I was like, I want to hear the story about the cult.
Okay. So, and just so you know, I have maybe told the story to one or two other people, so I don't even know if it's even a good story, but okay. I hope it is.
Yeah.
All right? Okay.
Go. I'm ready.
So, when pandemic happens, March of 2020, me and my wife live in New York City on the Upper East Side. We moved out of the city temporarily, and then we moved back into the city June 1st of 2020. Now,
okay.
Where were you in June 1st, 2020?
I just moved back to Jersey City because I moved to my parents when the pandemic first happened.
Like most people did.
Yeah, and then I moved back in June.
So New York City at that time was eerily dead. Like most people, keep in mind, New York City was the epicenter, so everyone moved out. Mm-hmm. But what happened was I had my own business and I needed to come in and I had employees. So June 1st, I moved back into the city. I reopened my office, and believe it or not, we started going in legally because they said that we could. So, but every night when the sun would set, mm-hmm. you could see how vacant the buildings were.
Yeah.
And especially the buildings surrounding me. So I live on the 12th floor, and across the street from me, there's a really fancy building, really fancy. And in that building, almost all of the apartments were dark, aside from the few that were there. And we were like, oh, those are our friends. Those are our pandemic friends. There one apartment that was right across and one floor up. Mm-hmm. There was always one individual person in that apartment. Okay. And the person, when they didn't really come out on their balcony that much, and you can only just kind of see their silhouette. Mm-hmm. So sometimes they'd be staring, and because there was nothing going on, they would stare into our apartment and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're just that is the creepiest thing in the world. It's just this one guy that's at this apartment throughout the pandemic,
and they would just be standing on their balcony.
Just almost they have a balcony, and then there's a window. I would see them staring out, and we were probably one of the only apartments in our building that was occupied. So we would stare at them, they would stare back at us, or he would. And so 2021, things start to get better in New York City. Things start to open up, and there's now more people at that apartment, little by little. So first there was 2, then it was 3, and then this year especially, mm-hmm. there was times where it was 10, 11, 12 people at the apartment. Okay.
At one time.
And the apartment's not a giant, it's a nice apartment, maybe a 2-bedroom, but
why are there so many people?
And it would be a Tuesday night. And then Wednesday morning, we would wake up and see, and there'd be 4 or 5 people on the balcony. So people were staying over at that apartment.
And oh, okay.
So my wife is also a big cult person.
Yeah.
And so she and I would hypothesize what that particular apartment was, and we both came to the same conclusion that it's got to be a cult.
Oh, say less. I mean, why not?
Right?
Yeah.
So, it's very strange, weird amounts of people, and weird looking people too. I should say that. Very strange looking people. So last week, after we've had maybe 50 dinner time conversations of talking about the cult across the way, which we thought was maybe Nexium or one of those big cults that there was Netflix specials on.
Yeah.
Okay. Or I was I'm getting to the bottom of this.
Yeah.
I need to know what this is.
Who lives there? What's going on?
Okay. So here's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And you should know I'm a lawyer by trade.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty good at investigating things.
Yeah.
So first off, we didn't even know what the apartment number was of the building. So we didn't know if it was apartment 13R or whatever. So the first thing we did, and I'm going to take you through my steps here.
Say less.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I went to Street Easy, and I figured out the apartment straight across the way.
Okay.
Which was the apartment under theirs. And I figured out that was apartment, 12S, let's call it. Mm-hmm. So we're okay, we know that the apartment above is likely apartment 13S. So I ended up using Street Easy, which is a...
Hold up, they have 13 floors?
Oh, this is a big building. They probably have
I thought there were no 13 floors on buildings.
I think there is a 13th floor in this building.
Weird. Okay, already I'm Hooked.
So the building, I should tell you, takes up like a full New York City block.
Wow.
It's a big building, and it probably has maybe 18, 19 floors.
Wow.
And in the building, there's 3 separate towers. So it's a really big building and a really fancy building. White glove, like doorman, like lots of amenities.
You name it, it's there.
Extremely expensive.
Yeah.
Extremely. Okay. So I figure out what the apartment number is by using StreetEasy, which is basically a Zillow for New York City.
Yeah.
Okay. So I now have the apartment number. So then I go into the New York City property records, okay?
Yeah.
And I searched there quite a bit for things, and I was able to find that apartment. And that apartment, which is owned by an LLC called My Nest LLC, okay? My Nest LLC. And if you're unfamiliar with what goes on,
loving this. Continue.
with what goes on in New York City, so like a lot of people, like rich people, don't want to put their names on individual apartments, so they make these like fake LLCs, like that are just like for the purposes of owning the apartments to avoid liability and
like a shell company.
It's a shell company. Yeah. So it's My Nest LLC. So then I'm like, okay, My Nest LLC, what is this? So then I continue searching the property records, and then I search My Nest LLC to see if they own any additional properties in New York City. They owned one other apartment. So that apartment's on 66th Street. They owned an apartment on 69th Street.
Okay.
Okay. So I was like, what is going on here? They own 2 separate apartments, 66th, 69th. This is weird.
Yeah.
So then I go into the actual like transfer of the deeds, and on the transfer of the deeds for the individual apartment on 66, which is the apartment that's across the way from us, I see a name of. It's very strange because the deed, if you wanted to serve the LLC, I missed a step here. So then I went to the New York State Entity Department of State website to figure out who owns that LLC, My Nest LLC.
And this all just came because you just were like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
We needed to know. This had been going on for years.
Yeah.
Like once or twice a week, me and my wife would be like, oh,
they're having a party again.
Yeah, the cult.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's there? Why are people there?
So then the listing on the state's website for who owned the corporation didn't say who owned it, but it gave a service address of somebody, a financial company in Los Angeles, California, like a financial advisor. And that financial advisor's name was Marilyn Anderson, like Financial Services. Okay? So then I Google Marilyn Anderson Financial Services, and I come to this website, and I find this woman, Marilyn Anderson, and she had written a book called How to Live Like a Millionaire Without Having $1 Million. Okay? And I don't know if this is going to come up, but she is very quirky.
You almost have to be a millionaire to afford prescriptions these days. And that's even with insurance. So I checked out ways to get my pills for less. You might have high cholesterol or diabetes, or you might have broken your...
So it's like a health cult.
That was just like an example of like, oh, how do you get your prescriptions for cheaper?
Okay, so hold on.
Yes.
So the apartment,
yes,
it goes back to My Nest
LLC.
They bought this apartment on 66 and they own an apartment on 69.
Correct.
When you looked into My Nest, you found out the person that bought the apartments, or what the entity is registered to, the person
is this woman. Okay.
So
then
hold up. And she's Los Angeles based.
She calls herself an author, and she...
Can I see a picture?
Yeah, I could show you that video.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Did you look at the comments on YouTube? Of course you did. Why would you not?
Wait. So then I searched further into Marilyn Anderson, and then I found a different Marilyn Anderson. So already my mind is like, okay, this is some like how to like live like a millionaire, and all these like people are piled up into this really expensive apartment, and they're like living like a millionaire without like living. So, but then I found a different Marilyn. Okay, and the Marilyn was a legitimate financial advisor. So this crazy kooky person is not. This has nothing to do.
Oh, okay. So Marilyn doesn't live there.
She does not live there.
Does she come up anymore in the story?
She does not, but another Marilyn Anderson does.
Okay, that's fair.
Okay? So then there's this other Marilyn Anderson who has a legitimate financial company, and I found the company, and I found her on LinkedIn, the real Marilyn Anderson.
Got it.
I just was taking it to like a dead end, as we call it.
Got it. Yep.
Okay. So I'm like, okay, like that ended up being a dead end too. I looked her up on LinkedIn. She's like a private equity financial advisor for people in Los Angeles, California. She calls it like very boutique-y and for like very like famous rich people.
Got it.
So I was like, okay, like I couldn't get any other information. So then I started like really parsing through the property records.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, that would be my next question. Just would figure out, when did this apartment become My Nest's, quote unquote?
So that apartment, that My Nest apartment, was bought maybe in like 2016 or 2017.
Also, I have a side question.
Yes.
And I feel you're a good person to ask for this. It's
Yes.
nice, because usually when I ask Scott questions, like, we just say, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like you know.
Okay.
This is great.
Yes.
So I, as a company,
Yeah.
like just say Serial Killers LLC,
Correct.
we could buy an apartment.
Correct.
And then basically what we could do
Yes.
is use that and then count it as a loss because we bought property, but then, I don't know, for tax reasons, you could almost like finagle it where it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah, if you're a property owner and you have a mortgage on a property, there's ways to deduct part of that mortgage from, yes.
So we could say it's like our headquarters.
Yeah, and then you're taking, there's a deduction of a maximum of $750,000.
So we could keep buying properties and saying that we're all the mortgages and all this other stuff.
Well, eventually a bank would be like, oh, we're not going to give you more than one mortgage.
One would hope.
Yes. Okay. So now so I start parsing through the property records, and every single address that's even on the property records goes back to this financial firm in Los Angeles. So they're really doing a crazy job at hiding who owns My Nest LLC and who owns this property. But deep in one of the financial records, I saw this address, and it said, keep in mind, this property is at 200 East 66. They also own a property at 200 East 69th. And then really deep in the records, I saw this address of 225 East 67th Street.
Hold up. A third property?
A third property.
What?
And this was not readily available information. You really had to go into the property records to find this.
Okay. And this just happened to be on one of the paperworks that you were going through?
Yeah, because I was like really getting into it. I was like, there has to be another address somewhere. So then I look up the property records for 225 East 67th Street. Well, first I go to Street Easy or Google Street View, and I look, and it's a carriage house in New York City. So it's like a 3 or 4 level,
like a brownstone,
like beautiful brownstone.
Got it.
Okay,
super expensive. Like New York, those things are insanely priced, like at least $10 million.
Oh yeah, and this one's in like a very nice neighborhood. It's probably
Upper East Side.
Yeah, it's probably like 15 or 20 million, and it's big.
Yeah,
too.
we're talking money.
Yes. Okay. So I go and look, and I saw that there was some transfers of that piece of property between like 2002, 2003 to like the last one might have been like 2018.
Okay.
And so when I start going through the records, I see that there's a transfer of the property from a James Henson to a, what's the name? I got to figure out the name and make sure I have all my facts correct.
Hold up. So from this random address being on the original property for the 66th one,
Yes.
you then went to this address on 67th.
Correct.
Because so Mike, this is a dumb question, but I feel like I'm really going to dumb this down. Why would the 67th Street address be on there?
I don't know. And that's what was confusing, because in all the other documents and the transfers, like they were using that Los Angeles address, but maybe someone said at some point you need to have an actual address of it can't just be this financial person, like we want to put an actual address onto this document.
For the same reasons that I was talking at before, because after a while, the banks are going to ask, what is this financial company doing with all these properties?
Exactly. So I see a couple of different transfers of this property. One was from a James Henson to a Jane Henson, and then a Jane Henson to some other LLC. And then when Jane Henson and the transfer, so from James Henson to the other Henson, there was $0 exchange. From Jane Henson to this new LLC, it was like $3.5 million, which is significantly undervalued for this property. And then that entity transferred it to another entity called like My Carriage House or Carriage House Annex LLC.
Okay.
All right. So now,
and this is all taking place around the same time as the 2016 property?
Generally, things are taking like around the same time.
So within the past 10 years,
correct,
they pick up the 66th Street one, they pick up the 69th Street one, and then this mysterious 67th Street property is transferred for considerably underpriced in this exact same time.
Exactly. But it
Got
looked
it.
like that 67th Street property was owned within those same entities or those same people for a very long period of time.
Passed around almost.
Correct. Passed around from different entities and different people.
Interesting.
Ready?
Yeah.
This is where it comes full circle.
Yeah.
So me and my wife start to look at 225 East 67th Street, I believe is the address. Let me just double check that.
And this is the carriage house.
This is the carriage house.
The random carriage house that you found on a financial document.
Exactly.
That cracked open the whole thing.
Yes, it is 225 East 67th Street, okay? So 225 East 67th Street, as we looked into it, was, ready for it?
Yeah.
It belonged to Jim Henson, the
Muppets?
the creator of the Muppets and of Sesame Street. And it was his workshop where he had developed many of the Muppet and Sesame Street characters.
Wow.
And so now that before he died, he transferred that property to his wife. His wife then transferred that property to his estate. And then his estate transferred that property to a separate project that's run by his daughter. And it's called the Carriage House Annex.
Okay.
And they give like grants and awards to different puppeteers that are promoting the arts of puppetry.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
So then we're like, what?
Yeah.
What is going on? Like,
Yeah.
And then we pulled it all together. The apartment across the way, which is owned by My Nest LLC, Big Bird Nest.
Oh, yeah.
What we thought was the Nexium cult across the way actually is just a group of puppeteers. And they're probably such nice, sweet people that probably don't have a lot of money, because I don't think there's a lot of money in puppeteering.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you really got to be at the top to be a good puppeteer.
Yes. And so across the way, it's kind of like a cult.
Yeah.
There's
yeah.
a cult of puppeteers.
Yeah, very much so.
And from us thinking that this was like the creepiest, weirdest thing in the world is like the most like lovely, nice thing.
I know. It's almost like you found like a nice, you wrapped it up nicely. Like here I was waiting for the murder.
No murder.
I swear I was expecting a murder in the carriage house.
Well, can I tell you where we're at right now?
Yeah.
Because like that can't be it for me.
Yeah, no, it can't be.
Like I need to know more of what is going on.
Yeah, like a Scientology involved.
Yeah, so
it is?
No. There's no
checking.
Scientology involved. So a few things. So I walked past and I have a 1.5-year-old. So like we watch a lot of Sesame Street in our house. And like I'm a Muppets fan ever since I was a kid.
Yeah,
too.
my goddaughter is obsessed with Elmo.
So I walked past the house, and this is what the house looks like, if you could see that.
Wow. And a carriage house, when you open it up, it's kind of like a courtyard, right?
So it's not a courtyard, it's closed, but it's very open in there. And over the door of the carriage house, I don't know if you could see it.
What is it?
It says Ha, H-A. Like, ha. Okay? So it's like, it was Jim
They're in on
Henson.
the
It was
joke, yeah.
just like a cute little joke. So then I started looking at the Carriage House Annex to find out what this is.
Yeah.
And so I saw that they have different grants that they're giving out in different like shows. And so I am trying to now penetrate into the puppeteering community. I need to get into that carriage house.
I feel like once you enter the puppeteering world, I don't know. They're going to know that they're going to go back and listen to this. They're going to watch it and be like, he's not one of us.
Well, but I'm coming in good faith. Like it's with like serious curiosity, right? Genuine curiosity.
True.
Like I have no intent to do anything other than bring light to this amazing world and puppetry.
Yeah.
I'm not making fun of them. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's a great thing. We love
Sesame Street, the Muppets, like amazing.
So I found this one show that's supposed to be this month or next month, and I found the creator of the show who was given the grant, and I Instagram messaged her. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to say, hey, I'm trying to figure out what's going on, but a nice friendly message of hey, blank, I saw online that you were given this grant and are putting on a production in the next coming days. Is there a place where I could buy tickets for the show? Where's the show being held? And she's like, thanks for reaching out. Send me your email address and I'll get you the information. So I sent her my email address. I still haven't received anything, so I need to follow up with her. But you better believe if I am going to go to that puppet show.
Yeah. Is it like Avenue Q-ish?
No, so that specific puppeteer, she does hand shadow puppets.
What?
Yes.
So it's a whole show of shadow puppets.
Correct, for her.
I would go to that in 2 seconds.
Yes, and it's an adult shadow puppet show.
I need to go to this.
Right?
I didn't even know that was a thing.
So she had, and I'm sure it's awesome and probably hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting a grant for it, I'm going to assume that you're at the top of your field.
Like the Jim Henson grant for it. So it's crazy.
That is nuts. And it really feels very Only Murder in the Buildings-ish.
Yes.
Like, I feel like you guys really...
Yes.
Really, I was thinking this was leading to a murder.
My wife is the Selena Gomez character,
Yeah.
and am I Martin...
Yeah, I would say maybe you're more Steve Martin.
Steve Martin?
I don't think you're...
Steve Martin or Martin Short?
I think you're more Steve Martin
I think I'm more
Short.
Yeah, I think I'm more Steve Martin.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes.
So it just goes to show, don't judge a book by its cover.
Don't judge, do your research before
Hold, please.
you jump.
I'm going to play a quick commercial. It's here. Hold on. There we go. Wow, I get to play my own commercials now. This is exciting. Okay, and now we're back.
We're back.
Wow.
So I don't know where this is going to go.
Yeah.
But I'm not letting it die. Like I have to keep this going. I have to keep this moving forward.
Well, I mean, I feel like I've heard people are good at investigating.
Yeah.
But you have truly, I feel, blown the lid on all investigations I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
I have never seen someone go into so much detail
Yeah.
to get to the bottom of something in my life.
I'm pretty relentless. I think that's one of my skills as a litigator and attorney.
Yeah.
If I have to plug myself for a second.
Linden Law.
Linden Law. So like if I fixate on something and I want to know the answer to something, like I will not give up.
I am very much the same in certain things. Like in college, they told me my credits wouldn't transfer. I transferred 3 times.
Yeah.
By the time I got to the 3rd one, they're like, we're not taking any of these. I legit printed out every course I ever took and got teachers' recommendations on every single one of those and was like, here's why you have to take them, because I matched them up to your current course book. So these match. So you saying it doesn't because the curriculum's match and the teacher even says it does.
Never take no for an answer.
So true.
When I went for my first job interview after college, this guy was like, you're young and you're going to learn that life isn't black and white and there's a lot of gray area in between. Fuck that.
Yeah, so true.
Like, no. You make your own luck in this world. Like, it's only a no if you let it be a no, and you never give up. That's kind of how I got onto Survivor.
Really?
Yeah, like I was relentless.
Really?
Follow-up videos every 6 months, emailing nonstop. Once they gave me a little crack, I pushed my way through the door.
Wow.
And that's the way I like to live my life, which is very annoying for my wife.
No,
but,
listen, it's good to have pit bulls, I feel,
Yeah.
who like are aggressive like that.
Yeah.
Because, some people just kind of sit by the side. But, I mean, you've cracked open where Jim Henson's art studio is. So, I mean, I feel like joke's on them.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what I love being a lawyer. Like, people that would just sit back. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
we need to keep going.
I need to get in. So is all that stuff like public record?
It's all
or do you have your own like little database that you search?
So that's all like Street Easy is obviously public.
Yeah.
ACRIS, which is the New York City property records, is public. And then additionally, you can go to the New York Department of State website and look up any LLC and figure out when they were registered, who to serve if you want to sue them, and things like that. It's all public record.
You just have to know how to use it.
You just got to know that they exist and know how to use it. Yeah.
That's insane.
It's crazy.
There's like so many free resources out there that you just don't realize can help you not be like junior detective, but can really...
It could really, really, really help. And that's why like a lot of like investigative podcasts and things like that, a lot of the information is out there. You just had to piece it together. So like Serial is like obviously in the news right now. Like she went and did something called a FOIL request to the prosecutor's office and to the detective's office, where the government's required to respond to these requests. And sure, they'll try to fight it and make up excuses of why they can't give it to you. But a FOIL request is a freedom of information request that if it's a government entity, generally speaking, the public's entitled to that information. So if you're ever trying to figure out what's going on, or a loved one's being prosecuted, or maybe even in jail, you could always go and do a FOIL request to any entity and try to get that information.
Really?
And anybody could. You don't have to be a lawyer to do it. Anybody could do it. We're living in a world right now. This is like, we're going to get deep for a second, where it's almost like all these big like corporations have so much information on us, right? And like the government has a lot of information on us, not to like be like Big Brother and politically. There you go.
I knew we'd get there.
But at the same time, you know, as an individual person, you kind of think, oh, I don't have access to this information, or I can't get this information.
Yeah.
That's not true. You just have to not give up, because people will tell you no along the way.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yes.
Like, I really didn't know that you could do all that for free.
For free.
Like, I would have assumed I would have to.
Not only for free, like in the amount of time that I told that story, I got it done.
Really?
Oh yeah, it was pretty fast. I was doing it on my phone, and then like once I found the financial advisor's information, I got up from the couch and was like, I got to grab my laptop. And then for the next 20 minutes, I was just like giggling to myself as this unfolded and figured out.
The cult was actually like an innocent puppeteer party.
And my wife is sitting next to me, but not looking at my computer. She's like, tell me. And I was like, I'll tell you when I get to the end.
I'm so close.
And so she just kept hearing me chuckle to myself, and she's like, ah. And I was like, I'm not telling you yet.
Well, now I need to feel, I like actually want to investigate a murder with you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Like, I really feel, I think I'd be good on like the interviewing portion.
So like that's the area law I don't practice right now. And I'm like, should I be practicing like civil rights and getting people out of jail that maybe had wrongfully been convicted?
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a good one. And in New York?
And like, I like to do that type of research and stuff. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Hold up. So like, just say.
Yeah.
Here's just questions.
Yes.
How do cases like get cracked back open? Is it because, like, for you example, you're saying like this freedom of information thing. So just say I felt something was wrongfully convicted.
Yeah.
I start this whole process up. Would I just say contact somebody and be like, hey, there's something fishy going on here, just keep going?
So
how iron tight does a case have to be for it to get like convicted, and when does it become a State Department thing?
Sure.
So many questions.
Okay, so we're at a very interesting time in our society right now, and we're going to get to that. But generally speaking, what happens is, and keep in mind, this is not my expertise. Yeah. People get convicted, they appeal the conviction, and there's different accounts which you can appeal on, and you can appeal multiple times. You could say that you didn't have proper representation, or a mistake was made by the jury, and so there's lots of different ways that you could appeal, and that's why when you hear some of these documentaries on Netflix, these appeals are happening over 10, 15, 20 years.
So true. Like the staircase.
Right.
Yeah.
DNA evidence, DNA technology gets better, and you say, hey, if we use this DNA technology, we could show that somebody else did it. And so as there's adjustments and moves forward in the scientific community, if you could use that evidence to get off or to exculpate yourself,
exculpate?
Exculpate?
What's that?
Like to get off of something. Did I not say the right word?
No, I think you did, and I just love that word now. Exculpate. Love that. It's so like formal. I exculpated myself.
It's exculpate.
Okay. So we added
I added an extra and a couple of extra letters there. But like as technology progresses, like there's ways that you could test the evidence in the case, and that's one thing that goes on. And appeals could happen and take years. Right now, something interesting is happening as well in our society, and that's because of movements within the Black Lives Matter community and just like general civil rights and the amount of convictions that have gone on since the 90s and the drug wars and things like that. It's being uncovered that there's been a lot of bad policing where cops and detectives were over aggressive or covering up evidence and not exchanging evidence. That's called a Brady violation, which is how Adnan Syed got off, or part of how he got off.
Wow.
And so all these big police departments and district attorneys' offices in major, more progressive cities like New York and Baltimore and Los Angeles are now creating these units where they look at past convictions that they think might have been improper. So 2 weeks ago, the Brooklyn DA's office came out and said this specific detective who worked on these cases, there's a lot of wrongdoing surrounding him, and we're going to dismiss close to 400 cases.
Really?
400.
That's insane. And you wouldn't, like, I get it in, like, a small town, right? Because you would think, like, everything is probably owned or operated. Everybody knows each other. But in, like, a city, I feel like you really got to be, like, a
so with
criminal.
So with Adnan Syed, like this division of the Maryland Police Department and Prosecutor's Office looked at his case because they recently created this division within the past year or so.
Really?
Yeah,
and this is popping up more places than one.
Yes,
like these small divisions are being to look at cases.
Look at questionable convictions.
Got it.
And so as they looked at this specific group, as they looked at it, they started to see that there was a lot of things in his case, that there was potentially 2 other suspects who were not properly investigated. That's one. And 2 is, and the information regarding them was never exchanged to his defense attorney.
Wait, what?
Yeah. So there was handwritten notes in the file of 2 other potential suspects, including one of them which told the victim, "I'm going to kill you and make you disappear."
What?
And that information was never given to Adnan Syed's defense attorney. So they couldn't.
And that's illegal.
Yeah, it's called a Brady violation. It's a constitutional violation. So that was one thing that was discovered. And additionally, they realized that a lot of the science behind, quote unquote, science behind his conviction, if you remember, they used a lot of cell phone tower. It was all bogus and bullshit.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, like as we get further into this case, we realize that like it probably wasn't him.
Because people think with like, you watch a detective show, you watch these shows that they kind of dramatize the whole situation. The Wire really does the best job of showing you how painstaking details you need to get a search warrant.
Right.
To actually like tap into a phone. Like it's not as easy as you think.
No.
And the locations that you're quote unquote getting don't actually show you the exact location. Unless it's a Find My iPhone where it literally shows you that. You don't do it. And
it's interesting because now our technology has gotten so good at pinpointing us, right?
Yes.
Because they used to just use cell phone towers. Hey,
they were in this general radius.
Or through a triangular coordination between these 3, we think you're closest to, like, but now your phone is attached to Wi-Fi everywhere. Your phone, like it could show when you left Wi-Fi and when you joined Wi-Fi. And so that with the cell phone towers, and there's more cell phone towers too.
Hold up. So just say I go missing.
Uh-huh.
But the Starbucks on 23rd Street.
Yeah.
How would it know? How would it pick me up there?
Well, if you connected to Starbucks Wi-Fi, like that's probably in your system. And when you walk past there, it probably registers your device.
But like if just say I go missing with my phone, nobody could get into just say my cloud or anything.
Yeah.
That's all completely just gone, right?
Well, you're talking about like your GPS location?
Yeah.
Your GPS location right now could be found very easily by anybody in the U.S. government.
But for like your case, just say, like a lawyer can't be like, just say in a murder trial, can't say, I know they were home. Well, here's the evidence.
What I would do in that case, and I'm not a criminal attorney, but I would subpoena the phone records from Verizon, AT&T, and see what type of records they can give me.
Huh.
And then get an expert to go and decipher all the coordinates and stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I honestly am loving every minute of this because it sounds like you get to be a detective and just keep looking for things, and I really enjoy that.
Yeah, and some things are easy to find and some things are hard to find, and sometimes you don't find things at all, and that's very frustrating.
Yeah, dead ends.
Dead ends are extremely frustrating, and they unfortunately happen. Like I know you say don't. I said don't take no for an answer, but sometimes like the information just literally doesn't exist.
Yeah,
and that happens. Sometimes people destroy the information.
And then I want to go even further.
Yeah.
And figure out why they destroyed it. Yeah.
Yep.
Did you watch The Staircase?
I did watch The Staircase.
Do you think he's innocent or guilty?
I think he's innocent. I believe the owl theory.
I thought... Wait, what?
The owl theory.
Okay, I did not believe the owl theory.
I believe the owl theory.
You really think an owl like scraped up her face and...
I do.
Made her fall down the stairs?
It is such an unbelievable set of circumstances, right?
But twice.
Well... The first time.
So you think there was a murder the first time?
No, I don't think there was a murder the first time. I think that it just so happened that he had been there both times or in the proximity.
Yeah, because the second time it was kind of loose.
Well, also, like,
or the first time was a loose set of circumstances.
So they let the evidence of the first time come in for the second time, right, at trial. Mm-hmm. So it's like, did that taint the jury? Like, yeah, because they were like, oh, twice.
Yeah.
And so, like, then you're like, okay, but like, is it possible? It's possible. You think he killed her?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
But I also am confused. Like, I know she just didn't fall down the stairs.
But what if she did?
I do think that. But the injuries kind of are...
That's the thing. They're very, very weird injuries, right? Like if he struck her on the head with something.
But then there was the fire poker or whatever it was. That came back into play.
That can't kill anyone.
The fire poker?
I don't think that can.
Not with the injuries that they said it did.
The fire poker. In my mind, that fire poker weighs like, I don't know, under 10 pounds.
True.
So it's like, how is he going to kill her? And like, why would he grab the fire poker? There's knives.
You're right.
And so, listen, if he did kill her, and I don't think he did, it would have been a crime of passion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't think, oh, I'm going to set this whole thing up and kill her and throw her down the stairs. Like, that would be...
That's a murder. Homicide or
right.
Crime of passion is in the moment.
Right.
This wasn't planned. This wasn't premeditated.
This was not premeditated. So if he's going premeditated or not premeditated, you think he's going to the fireplace to grab the fire poker and not to the kitchen to grab a knife?
You're right. You're right.
Like... And I think the fireplace was right next to the kitchen. Like, dude, you grab a knife.
Yeah, and also it was like a family heirloom, apparently, which, like, first of all, weird family heirloom.
Very strange.
Like, who passes fire pokers? It's weird.
Yes.
Second of all, you're right. Like,
think about this.
Also, why would you go up the stairs with the fire poker to then make sure she falls down the stairs? And why would you make the injuries on her face that obvious?
Yeah, the whole thing is like, if it was premeditated, there were, and this was a smart guy too.
Yeah,
there were ways to make it look even more like an accident.
So
right?
true.
And like instead, it's this like bloody mess. Like, yeah. Okay, so if he did it, it's a crime of passion, and he didn't go grab a knife.
Yeah.
And then like the whole thing with the micro feathers in the hair. Like I think that why not the owl theory?
It just is so insane to me to believe that an owl flew in.
It's crazy.
And caused it.
It's crazy.
But it's not crazy when you like start putting things together, because then it starts sounding like, yeah, maybe it was an owl that flew in.
Like, is that...
They were on a woodsy property.
And so, okay, and let's just like weigh it out. So you have an injury to her head, which didn't fracture her skull, and it's basically the only murder in the state that's ever taken place where there's head trauma without a fracture of the skull, which is like one in a million, because like there's been less than a million murders, I would hope, in the state.
Yeah.
but like there's a small likelihood that could happen versus a likelihood that an owl could have done it. There's a small likelihood of both of them. So why would we say that?
So the injury, if I'm understanding this correctly, basically she fell down the stairs.
Yeah.
She had injuries to her head, but her actual like skull didn't break.
Her skull, there was no fracture of her skull.
So she had head trauma, meaning like she got hit with something, but it wasn't hard enough to actually break her skull.
Superficial scratches and abrasions and slices in her head, but her skull wasn't fractured.
Yeah, that seems so weird.
How would her skull not be fractured? If he is beating the crap out of her, like, first off, like, why would he do it with a fire poker?
Yeah.
And, like, if he wanted to kill her, like, why wouldn't he have grabbed a knife? It's a bloody mess anyway. He calls 911. He's at the scene.
Okay, I now want to do a murder podcast with you because I want to break down some of the murders that I have questions on. And I feel like you're the intelligent one in the podcast, and I'm the one who kind of just like asks a bunch of questions that people are like, wow, that guy has a lot of questions.
Well, I pretend to know what I'm talking about, but like I like
you know 99% of it.
I know a good amount.
I know how to ask a good question,
and I know how to bullshit a good answer.
So it's perfect.
But
that's Scotty on the cereal one.
But I'm not so sure. If the standard's beyond a reasonable doubt, which it is for a criminal case, beyond a reasonable doubt means like you're really close to 100% positive.
Well, see, this is where,
not 100%, but pretty damn close.
and that's where I felt like he shouldn't have been convicted.
Should not have been.
Because in my head, I'm like, you still left the door completely open. I thought the defense did a pretty decent job of leaving leaving some seed of doubt there.
The thing is, what they relied on was the seed of doubt.
Yeah.
But jurors like answers to questions. Right.
Yeah.
So even though the standard is beyond a reasonable doubt, in my cases, the standard is more likely than not. Mm-hmm. It's 50.5%, 51%. If I tip the scales ever so slightly in my favor,
yeah,
then I'm supposed to win my case. But jurors don't look at it that way. Even though the judge tells them that, and I tell them that, and I remind them of that, they still look at the case and say, "Okay, but I want answers." Right? Okay, if he didn't do it, then who did? Like, give us an answer.
Yeah.
People want answers, especially now. We have so much information flowing our way that like people want more and more and more information.
Yeah.
And they want answers to questions. They don't want open-ended things.
Yeah.
So like in personal injury and civil cases, one of the things that is interesting, that's a kind of theme here that's happening, is like jurors don't just want to know why the defendants were negligent or why they and what they did, which would show that they were negligent. They want to know why they did it. They want to know what the motive is. So when a big drug company releases a drug to the market and they make and they're selling the product, even though they know that specific drug could cause a heart attack or can cause DVT or blood clots, even if you prove to a jury that they knew, which is you won you're supposed to win your case at that point, the jury still wants to know why they released it, why that they released it, even though they knew it was going to hurt people, and the answer is almost always the same thing,
which is
money.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's right there.
Yep. It's the root of all evil.
Yeah. Jeez, now I want to find other murders that I have questions on. Do you think OJ did it?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah. He did it, and then he hired one of the best lawyers to defend him.
Because they created doubt.
Yeah, and they did a great job.
Yeah. But see, that's what I was feeling like in the staircase, like that doubt existed, and it was like very OJ to me in the sense that, like, again, with OJ, after you watched, I don't know, did you watch the Made in America special?
No.
So good.
Yeah.
6 hours,
yes.
but it's a great 6 hours of your time. I highly recommend everyone watch it. But you see the doubt that they put into it, and they did such a good job.
Yeah, and also you have to keep in mind that there's certain things that work against certain people in certain situations.
So true.
So like the judge who's assigned to the case, they're the gatekeeper of information. They tell you what can and can't go into a case. So there were certain things in the staircase case that came in that maybe another judge wouldn't have let in.
True.
And that could have changed his possible conviction or the outcome of the case.
Plus, it's a high-profile case.
But with OJ, he had Johnny Cochran, who's like now unfortunately passed away, but was like a living legend when he was alive. Like, was the best attorney that like money could buy at the time.
Really?
And he had an entire team of lawyers.
True.
So when you take that, even if you're to look at the guy from the staircase who still had a lot of money, it wasn't, 6 lawyers deep. It was 2 or 3 of them, but still, let me just say this before like we finish this, because
I had one more commercial, and then I have another question.
Let's do it.
I have so many questions.
I would be remiss to say, and it would be wrong to say, if I didn't include the amount of people who don't get good legal representation in the United States.
Yeah.
And that's not a political point I'm making. It's the God's honest truth.
Yeah.
That many of the people that are arrested for certain crimes happen to be people that are lower class and can't afford legal representation. They end up with a legal aid attorney who are great attorneys, but they're bombarded with cases. Yeah. And they don't necessarily get the defense that they deserve and end up taking pleas. Mm-hmm. Even if they didn't do it, and they could, and a lot of people end up in jail. Not a lot of people, but people end up in jail.
Enough people where it's like
a problem.
Exactly.
Where they didn't do it, but they don't have the money to put on a proper defense.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like attorneys. It's kind of a lot about like storytelling. Like you have to figure out how you're going to put on not necessarily a show, but a show to a degree where it's like, this is what you've given me, and then I have to kind of improv it out and say like, they could have been here, they could have done this, and creating the narrative where it's not just like on paper, just say like with an OJ, clearly killed.
Yeah.
However, once I start introducing all these things, you can't say that because
so it's funny
there's
that
now all these pieces in the puzzle.
you just mentioned two really key words right there, and this is what makes a great trial attorney, is storytelling and improv. Improv is extremely important. You go into a trial and you don't know really what's going to happen. The judge could let information in or not let information in. You can have a witness that lies on the stand. You could have a witness that give you
There's
an
a lot
answer.
of extra variables.
Yeah, so you need to be prepared for everything. But keep in mind, like at the same time, you're telling a story from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
And the story's got to make sense. And people are like a story. When you give somebody information and you're like, oh, it's all over the place and you're disorganized and you're just feeding them information, people can't understand or comprehend it.
True.
But when you tell them within the bounds of a story, they understand what's going on.
Wow.
And so storytelling is probably the greatest strength of a trial attorney. And I like to think I'm an okay storyteller. I don't know. I could be terrible for all I know, but
No, I've been fascinated this whole time. Like I have so many questions and I feel like they're just able to be answered. It's great because it's like, you know what they do.
I'm a jack of all trades, master of none.
Listen, I love it because there's so many murder cases that I have questions on. I'm going to now text you after I watch murder specials.
Sure.
There's a couple that I would like to do some investigating into. I actually have one case in particular that I've heard through another friend who's an attorney that they know the person did it and they think there's some shady business going on behind the scenes.
So that's definitely possible. Also, can I tell you another really good resource to like bounce stuff off of? Like the Reddit boards for these things are fantastic.
Really?
Yeah, they're great. I mean, if you go onto like the Staircase Reddit board, it's so good. And some of the people on there, you're like, oh, like it's just someone like lurking on Reddit and some idiot. Like, no, there's people that get obsessed with these shows and
do
with
their
these
own forensic analysis,
and they do their own, and some of the things that they come up with are incredible, like absolutely. And these are people that are just like true crime fans. So the boards are an excellent resource if you are watching a show and you want to learn more.
Go to the Reddit.
Go to Reddit. Reddit's awesome.
I'm telling you, it's a good one.
I love Reddit.
Same.
Yeah.
In between the trolls and weird comments, you get some good resources. I'll say that much.
You got to go to the right Reddit.
Yeah. And it's a search, but you get there.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm now shocked that you didn't win Survivor. I feel like you're a great storyteller.
You saw my season.
I did.
I had a difficult boot.
Yeah. What happened with yours?
We were at a 4-4 split, and they gave one of my enemies a vote block, and she blocked my vote. And then it turned it into a 4-3, and then I got voted off. Yeah.
That ain't right.
No, it was a laughable way to go. Because even when the votes were being read, I was just laughing to myself. I was like, "What am I supposed to do in this situation?"
Yeah. What are your chances?
It was a 4-4 split for people that don't know, and there was a swap, and I was with part of my original 4 and then 4 people on the other side, and we made a tribe of 8, and it was at 4-4, and we had convinced the other tribe, at least 2 of them, to switch over to us immediately. So it was going to be 6-2 or 7-1. But then they gave her the vote block, and then
the number shifted quickly.
And they were like, oh, we could beat them now? Like, oh, we're not going to flip.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. But
I don't love that. I feel like you would have won.
Well, you're best friends with the guy that did win.
Yeah. But I mean, I feel like that would have been an interesting final 2 between you two.
Oh, it would have been really fun to go back and forth in terms of who played a better game.
Yeah, because Tommy can argue.
He was scared of me.
Oh, he was?
Yeah.
He was scared of you?
He says it to this day. Thank God you got voted off there, so I didn't have to vote you off. Because it could have ruined our friendship. Tommy and I are very close too.
Yeah.
So
jeez,
I don't know. You never know who could have won, but I started off the game really poorly, really poorly. I made some mistakes at the beginning of the game, and so I would have had a good story to tell at the end and said I was the easiest first vote ever, and you guys let me stick around, and now I'm here.
Yeah.
And I'm not here just because I rode coattails. You all came to me for advice. I pulled my strings, and I ended up sitting here.
Jeez.
But
well, if there's ever another second chance season, I feel like you'd be perfect for it.
no chance.
No chance?
Zero chance.
Zero chance. Okay, well, I'll leave that one up to my brain.
You can have my spot.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, I can't even get on, so maybe one of these
One
days.
day. Don't give up.
You're so true. You're
Don't
so right.
give up.
Yeah. It's only been 5 years, but it's fine.
Don't give up.
But no, this was super interesting.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Extremely fascinating.
I hope you enjoyed the story.
I need murder cases to bring up to you now.
Okay.
Because I want to see it broken down for me.
Okay. I need
like
to know.
If something is guilty,
Yeah.
I want to know why it's guilty.
Yeah.
And if it's not guilty, I want to know why.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be the idiot who sees it as the cut and dry one, and I need the Netflix documentary to break it down. But even Netflix documentaries, I have to say, sometimes they get a little carried away.
Yes. And also, one of the issues when it comes to like crime is you have people that are really passionate one side or another side, right? And it's very difficult for some people to take an honest look at the facts and make a determination of like what happened. Yeah. So like one of my friends is a public defender. And if she sat in this chair right now and she explained everything to you, she would have been like, "There's no way he did it," blah 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 blah, and like would have like argued it passionately and eloquently. But at the same time, it would have been would have been underpinnings of bias, right? Yeah. And so I'm a little step away from it. I don't really do criminal stuff. I do injury cases. So like I like to always take a look at like, okay, these are the facts. What's the law? What's the likelihood of certain things happening, rather than just to argue a position because that's my occupation or job. Well,
it's interesting because law is kind of like a doctor in that regard, that you kind of pick what you like.
Yes.
In like, are you more of a contract lawyer? Are you more of like an injury attorney? Or do you want to do more public defending? Because a public defender is probably extremely different arguing style, storytelling, all that from what you do.
Yes.
So
you see, I'm battling against the bias of the public. Even when we were recording with Scotty, I hear ambulance chaser and all these things, right? And everyone thinks that a plaintiff in a personal injury case is lying. So it's very interesting, like during
You're
a trial.
Already starting off like a step behind.
Always starting a step behind.
Crazy.
And so you have to, and the defendants use that to their advantage, right? Yeah. The main defense on almost all these cases are that my clients are liars, cheats, and frauds.
Jeez.
You want to know how I address that?
Yeah.
On my opening statement, I stand up and say, I'm just going to tell you, I don't know what the defense is going to say in this case, but I have a feeling their defense is going to be that my client's a liar, a cheat, and a fraud. So that's what this case is going to come down to. So you need to decide that for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, just call it out. Like, they're not going to come up and stand up and say that she's a liar, a cheat, or a fraud. But you better read between the lines, and that's what they're going to be telling you.
Exactly. Oh, wow.
So you have to decide, are they lying or are they cheating? Because and I
that's for them.
I submit to you that they're not, but that's going to be up to you to decide.
Wow.
Fun stuff.
I loved this.
Yeah, it's really fun.
This was so fun.
Yeah, I love being a lawyer.
Yes.
Love it.
So fun. And I like being able to have a podcast, so this is great.
Yeah.
Well, if there's any murder that you could think of that you want maybe Jason to break down, please send it or post it in the comments below if you aren't watching on YouTube, or send a DM, whatever. Because
even civil cases, like sometimes those like there's businesses with families and who's right and who's wrong and things like all these things are interesting. And I think it's really helpful to just like spread knowledge so people have like a real actual understanding of what's going on.
Yes.
So
again, I'm like pitbullish in that way, where it's like, if there's what you're saying, like a crack of doubt, I want to figure it out.
Yeah. And
so this helps me because I feel like I now believe the owl theory could very much be true.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
Why not?
And like, I think that would raise sufficient reasonable doubt if it had been presented properly to a jury.
Huh. Wow. And let's end it there.
Yep.
Thank you guys so much for listening. Watch the subscribe button somewhere on YouTube. Like and comment. You know all the things. The Serial Killers PC. We're going to be back on Monday. I don't know with what episode. That's Scott's job. But yeah, thank you for another bonus episode, Jason.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll do a murder one again soon.
Yeah, or maybe we'll do a Muppets one.
Yes.
we don't know where it's going to go.
It's going to go south real quick.
Okay.
Something tells me we're going to figure it out.
All right, see ya.
That's that.
Diabetes.
That sounds fun. All right, we're going to end there.
All right, have a good one. Bye.